And there's two things that I know that mums like. The first one is talk about their kids non-stop to the point where nobody likes them and nobody's listening, and the second is serial killers. Woof woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and we're back with another video. Christmas is coming, it's only a few days away, and whether 2020's been a good year for you, or like I know it has for the majority of people, if it's been one that you'd rather forget, we still have to celebrate this occasion. I'm possibly the least Christmassy person you're ever gonna meet, but as you can see I've got tinsel around me, I've got this weird penguin thing up here, look at it, it's got a trumpet, you've got Mr. Foo-Foo sitting here with a Christmas hat. Seriously, what more do you want from me? But as we know, Christmas is a time for our family, our friends, and forcing our hobbies on them. So I'm here today with a list of suggestions to help you make Christmas the 2020 comic book event of the year. So first on the list, you might be looking for something to get for your boyfriend, your husband, or your fiance. Now there is going to be a lot of stereotyping throughout this video, but honestly I don't know how I'd be able to make it without doing that. But assuming that your boyfriend or your husband is a similar age to me, that they're in the early 20s or early 30s, I would definitely recommend that you pick up the Power Rangers Deluxe editions from Boom Studios. But if they're a similar age to me, maybe they loved Power Rangers growing up, and if they are a similar age as I am, maybe they didn't stop loving Power Rangers even when they were supposed to grow up. Over the last couple of years, Boom Studios revitalised this brand so that anybody that enjoyed this series growing up can now enjoy it as an adult. It's got great art, it focuses on the main Mighty Morphin team, and these are also just beautiful books. But if you don't necessarily want a book, you can never really go wrong with getting your boyfriend or your husband some kind of t-shirt, hoodie, or just a pyjama set that's themed in a comic setting. Since Marvel's had this massive boom, you're never really going to be short of finding anything like that, so that's what I'd recommend. On the flip side, maybe you're looking for a comic for either your girlfriend or your wife, and maybe last year you gave them your heart but then the very next day they gave it away, so this year what I'd recommend doing is giving them Black Sad. I'm recommending this because it's a book that my girlfriend loved and she wasn't necessarily a comic reader before this. Black Sad is a detective comic that's got a European style to it, it's very beautiful watercolour, but it also follows a cat detective. Now yes, it is difficult to recommend a book that an entire gender will like, but I don't really think you can go wrong if it's got cats in it and it's about some kind of detective work. However, if a comic isn't good enough, Marvel recently released a line of jewellery, which if you've got the money for it, go for it. Next on the list is normally the most difficult to buy for, and that is the dad of the family. Some people get lucky and they've got a dad with a ton of hobbies. Unfortunately though, the majority of people don't have that. However, what I have noticed is that most dads, especially British ones, because obviously I'm from the UK, love James Bond. And you can't really blame him, he's a good looking dude, he's got a cool job, he drives a lot of cars, and he can actually win a game of poker. So what I'd recommend picking him up is the Warren Ellis James Bond Omnibus. This really ties it back into the origins of James Bond, so the Ian Fleming type stories. As well, if they like this type of thing, maybe they could go with something like Parker by Darwin Cook. But the classic dad gift that you can never go wrong with is a pair of slippers, and I've seen countless ones that have Superman on them, that have Batman on them, that have various Marvel characters, so that's definitely something that you can look into as well. Next up is the mum, and there's two things that I know that mums like. The first one is talk about their kids non-stop to the point where nobody likes them and nobody's listening, and the second is serial killers. I've yet to meet a mum who doesn't like murder mysteries, that doesn't like some kind of true crime documentary, and yes, I know that not everybody's mum on the planet likes those two things, I'm just generalising to help some people get some Christmas ideas, so don't feel the need to comment and say, well my mum doesn't like murder mysteries so you're completely wrong. But what I would recommend is a graphic novel, My Friend Dahmer. This is the autobiographical story of a guy who grew up going to the same school as Jeffrey Dahmer. You get to see how he acted in school, how they were as friends, and then eventually what it's like when it gets revealed that he is this massive serial killer. It is really dark and grounded, even though it's got quite a quirky art style, so I wouldn't recommend them reading it on Christmas Day, but it still would be a good gift for the mother. As well, we are in like a renaissance of comic book themed pillows. Now I know that my mum personally loves pillows, and also in the past couple of years I got her a Power Rangers dressing gown. She says that she loves that and wears it all the time, even though I've literally only seen her wear it once. Next up is the Grandad. If you still got your grandparents and you're close to them, make sure that you cherish them, and the way that you can do that this Christmas is buying them Pulp by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. This is a great western themed comic, and it's only short if they're not really your typical comic reader, but if they are, make sure they're subscribed. But depending on how old they are, it might be that they were growing up in the era where Clint Eastwood and John Wayne were just always in western films, and that was the main thing that you could watch in the cinema. Pulp really brings it back to that classic western status, so I think this would be a great read if you've got a grandparent that's into that thing. I can't give a suggestion for Grandad without giving one for Grandma. I personally never actually knew my grandparents, so I don't really have too much of a bearing with them, but from what I hear with people, they absolutely loved when their grandma did some baking. You are in luck because DC Comics printed the official DC superhero cookbook, and as well there's always different kind of like superhero cake tins that you can use and stuff like that, so you can really make it an activity between the two of you. You might as well take advantage of that, because I never got a chance to do that with my grandparents. Now we're about halfway through the list and hopefully you're enjoying this. If you are, please remember to give it a thumbs up because it really helps the channel, and also what helps the channel even more than that is clicking that subscribe button down below and clicking the bell notification. And I've also heard that if you do click that subscribe button, it increases the likelihood of you getting the gifts that you want at Christmas.
Terms and conditions apply. Mad Dog Comics will not be held liable if you don't get the gifts that you want as a result of subscribing.
As well, this is the first time I've got a chance to plug it. We've also got a brand new Reddit page, which is r/MaddogComic Community. That's with 2 Ds, 2 Gs. We're always having different conversations in there. It's always influential to the videos that come onto this channel, so I'd recommend checking it out and giving us a follow and being part of the community. Now, next up is the brother. Maybe he's a similar age to me. That's what my basis is going to be going off for that. So maybe he still likes superheroes because he's got that sort of like childhood sensibility towards it, but maybe he hasn't read anything in a good long while. So what I'd recommend is getting him one of the Invincible compendiums. This is written by Robert Kirkman, who also created and wrote The Walking Dead, so if they're a fan of that TV series, this might be a good shout to get them. But this is good superhero fun. You don't need to know too much continuity. It has a beginning, a middle and an end, and more than that, it's really violent. The fights in this are incredible, so much so that I even did a video with the top 15 best, so once you've read the series, make sure to check that one out. But as well, you might want to go classic and just go with a superhero themed poker set. And if you do, please ask them to teach me how to play poker because I really need the money. Next up, we've got The Sister, and the book that I'd recommend picking up is Monstrous from Image Comics. This is a series that only started quite recently, but it's great fantasy storytelling. It's got a really beautiful, softer art style, and it's a story that just seems to be getting better as it's continuing, so I'd recommend picking this one up for them, and you can get it in a beautiful oversized hardcover. As well, I've noticed that quite a few companies now are doing superhero themed Converse and bags, so if you really want to treat them, you might want to get them one of them as well, so that their style can also match up with your agenda to get them into being a comic book fan. But it might be the case that your brother or sister has been selfish and has decided to have a kid that you need to now buy a gift for. So if you've got a nephew, the book that I would recommend, even though it is a little bit pricey, is the Hulk by Jeff Loeb omnibus. Depending on their age, they might solely know superheroes from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think Hulk by Jeff Loeb is going to be one of the best stories that they can read. It's really vibrant, it's got great art from Ed McGuinness. You can pretty much jump into this if it is that they haven't read anything before, and it's got so many different characters throughout the Marvel Universe, so you see all of the Avengers cropping up, Spider-Man, a load of the X-Men, and it's just great fun. But for a non-book gift, what I'd recommend getting them, and it's weird that I'm still saying this name in 2020, but Funko Pop's always a good shout. There's such a variety of them now, it's impossible that you're watching this video and you don't know what a Funko Pop is, but you can get them in such a variety of characters that if they like a comic character in particular, you can probably find it for them, whether it be movie edition or comic book version. If you've got a niece to buy for, what I'd recommend is Batgirl Year One. It's about 6 issues or so long, and it is an origin story, but it's about Batgirl, who's a character that I feel like a lot more people should know about. Obviously we've had the Batwoman show, but that's not the same thing, so if you've got a niece and you're not really sure what to buy them, this might be a good shout because then they can start reading comics at an origin point. But instead, you might have an auntie that you don't really know what to buy them, but you don't want to buy them something that they actually want, so you're looking for a comic gift. If they were that age that was growing up with Disney fairy tales, stuff like Beauty and the Beast and things like that, I would recommend picking them up the first compendium of Fables. If you played the Telltale game The Wolf Among Us, then you will definitely know the story of this already, and it's set in that universe where fairy tale characters all live within the same city. But it's obviously meant for a more mature audience than the Disney films and the fairy tales that came before them, so they can read this with that knowledge that they've got of these characters, and they can also just get a great comic. And for a non-comic gift, you can still get them The Wolf Among Us on PS4. So either way, you can funnel them into this universe like there's no escaping it this Christmas. For your uncle, again depending on his age, I would recommend getting him the TMNT IDW series. Obviously you don't need to get him all 12 hardcovers, and some of them are difficult to find, but if you just get him the first one or maybe the first 2, he can then realise how great this series is. If he was growing up in the 80s, then he definitely knew the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but he might have grown out of it since then. This series was made for people who were fans of that show but are now a bit more mature. So even though I don't know any of your family, and that's something that you do have to remember throughout this video, that's one that I'd recommend picking up for them. The one I've got after this is the friend that keeps going on about Joker, even though it came out last year and it doesn't really make you seem intelligent, that you say that you understand this film because the message was literally written in the film at one point. But if they're still talking about that film, the comic that I'd recommend getting them is Harleen. Or maybe you could get them something like Batman Damned, because DC Comics made a new publication that was called DC Black Label. It's a collection of stories that are darker in nature and that you don't need to know too much of the continuity of the main DC universe in order to understand. Harleen looks at Harley Quinn, and Batman Damned actually deals with the death of the Joker and Batman investigating into that. These are both great choices, so if you want to make sure that they finally stop telling you that Joaquin Phoenix is a better Joker than Heath Ledger, give them one of these 2 books. But the last one on this list is mainly for the sake of being comprehensive, and I understand that not many people will want to buy for this person, but it's myself, the mad dog. Now realistically, I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. Like, I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree, because all I want for Christmas is you to subscribe to this channel and click the thumbs up if you enjoyed it. As well, I've had a great 2020, it's been the start of this channel and there's already been so much love, so much support, and there's just so many ideas going forward into it. But if you could do me a favour and share this video, there's only like a limited amount of time where this is going to be relevant to people, so that would really help. And please just make sure that you click the bell notification next to it so that you never miss a video, especially with how much I've got planned for 2021. And if you want to support the channel further, it is really appreciated. Like, this Christmas hat specifically for a sloth was not cheap, but I do have Amazon affiliate links down below. It doesn't increase the price, I can't see any of your details, it just means that eventually some money is going to be coming into this channel and hopefully I can upgrade my camera next year. But for anybody wondering, I haven't had a breakdown or anything like that. This is the mascot for my flat and it was the first Christmas gift that I ever got from my girlfriend, the Shadow Cat. But check out some of my social media links, and as well we've got that new Reddit page, so I hope to see as many of you there as possible. But that's pretty much all I've got to say for now, and I hope you all have a great Christmas. There's not going to be as many videos now until 2021 because I just want to make sure that I've got as much ready for then as I can. But until then, just make sure that you stay safe, stay reading the best books that you can find, and stay mad, all you dogs. Woof woof, see you at the next video.